Hello, welcome to the afternoon joint operation media brief. Our first speaker of the day is going to be Miami-Dade County Mayor Honorable Daniela Levine Cava.
Good evening, everybody. Here we are at the end of day 8. I want to thank our Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz and our Congresswoman Maria Elvira Salazar for joining us here today. I'm very glad that I can share with you that starting around 4:45 today, I'm very glad that I can share with you that starting at 4:45 p.m. today, we resumed our search and rescue efforts. And I have to tell you that our firefighters looked really, really excited to get back out there. This was following the recommendations of our structural engineers. They had taken the time to study the conditions to make sure things were safe. Our fire rescue team has been working around the clock, as you know, since this fateful building fall, and we needed our engineers on site to evaluate the safety of the standing structure. I am grateful to their hard work that got us back to work on the search and rescue as soon as possible. And we are continuing, of course, to assure that we do everything to protect our first responders. We will continue to search feverishly, as we have done all along, in the parts of the collapse that we currently have access to. Given our ongoing safety concerns about the integrity of the building, we're continuing to restrict access to the collapse zone. We'll get some more information about that from our Chief Fire Officer shortly. We're continuing to use the technology, the cameras, the drones, and more to search in the area of concern. And our team of engineers is doing ongoing testing and evaluation as we work to expand the search area as quickly as possible as it becomes safe to do so. And we're proceeding with planning for the likely demolition of the building while the search and rescue continues as our top priority. This is a decision that we need to make extremely carefully and methodically as we consider all the possible impacts to the pile of debris and to our search and rescue operation, as well as considerations of how to best manage the demolition in order to safeguard the integrity of the existing debris field. The numbers remain the same, 18 confirmed deaths, but now we have identified and notified next of kin for 17 of those victims. Please join me in praying for their families and their loved ones and those who are still waiting for news. We're also continuing to closely monitor the progress of our tropical storm Elsa, and the National Weather Service will be here tomorrow on site to brief our team. No impacts to South Florida are expected until late Sunday, when there is a risk of heavy rainfall and strong winds, but we continue to monitor the storm's progress. Now is the time for our community to make sure you have a plan in place and you take key precautions at home in the eventuality of a major storm. Our Office of Emergency Management, Charles Sorel, and Florida Department of Emergency Management Director Kevin Guthrie will provide more details on the storm preparation, and we encourage you to download our app, Ready MDC app. You can get it also the details from miamidade.gov/hurricane. There's checklists and other important information for you as you prepare for a storm. I've been in touch with the chairman, Pepe Diaz, who's with us here today, and we're working closely with the South Florida Water Management District on methods to draw water down in preparation for the possible storm because of all the water that we've had here lately. Given the saturation, we need to be sure that we'll be able to drain any water that comes from this new storm, and we've already been doing this over the last several days. Finally, I'm very grateful to President Joe Biden and First Lady Dr. Jill Biden for visiting us in Surfside today. We provided him with an operational briefing on our search and rescue efforts, our comprehensive family assistance center, which is up and running, our support effort, and much, much more. And he spent over 3 hours visiting with the families, and he also spent time with our first responders. He listened deeply to everyone. It was truly emotional for all of the families as well as for me and my team. The families spoke very candidly with him about their struggles and their grief, and he shared his own experience of great tragedy and grief, which was a great comfort to the families. As he said in his remarks following the visit, we are truly one nation, united by the enormity of this tragedy. We are truly united by this tragedy. So I want to thank the President and all of our state and federal partners for their ongoing collaboration. It has been a great blessing. It has been a great honor to have their support, and all the teams on the ground for the remarkable work that they're doing each and every day without fail, their endless dedication. Buenas tardes a todos. Aquí estamos al final del día 8. Estoy muy contenta de poder compartir que desde las 4:45 reanudamos las operaciones de búsqueda y rescate, siguiendo las recomendaciones de nuestros ingenieros estructurales. Nuestro equipo de bomberos de Miami-Dade ha estado trabajando las 24 horas del día junto con los ingenieros en el lugar para evaluar la estructura permanente, y estoy agradecido por el arduo trabajo del equipo para que volvamos a la búsqueda y el rescate lo antes posible, mientras hagamos todo lo posible para proteger a nuestros socorristas. Nuestro equipo de ingenieros está realizando pruebas y evaluaciones continuas mientras trabajamos para expandir el área de búsqueda lo más rápido posible, ya que es seguro hacerlo. Estamos procediendo con la planificación para la probable demolición del edificio mientras continúa la búsqueda y el rescate. Esta es una decisión que debemos tomar de manera extremadamente cuidadosa y metódica, ya que consideramos todos los posibles impactos a la pila de escombros y a nuestra operación de búsqueda y rescate, así como también consideramos cómo manejar mejor la demolición para salvaguardar la integridad del campo de escombros existente. También continuamos monitoreando de cerca ahora la tormenta tropical Elsa, y el Servicio Meteorológico Nacional estará aquí mañana para informar a nuestro equipo, aquí en nuestro centro de emergencia. No se esperan impactos en el sur de Florida hasta el domingo por la noche, cuando existe el riesgo de fuertes lluvias y vientos fuertes, pero continuamos monitoreando el progreso de la tormenta. Ahora es el momento de que nuestra comunidad se asegure de que tenga un plan y tome las precauciones clave en preparación para una tormenta. Finalmente, estamos muy agradecidos por la visita del presidente Biden y su señora Jill Biden a Surfside hoy. Le proporcionamos una sesión operativa sobre nuestras operaciones de búsqueda y rescate, el esfuerzo de apoyo de asistencia familiar integral y más. Pasó más de 3 horas visitando a las familias y pasó tiempo con nuestros socorristas también. Escuchó profundamente a las familias y habló con franqueza sobre sus propias experiencias con gran tragedia y dolor. Como dijo en sus comentarios después de la visita, somos verdaderamente una nación unida por la enormidad de esta tragedia. Quiero agradecer al presidente y a todos nuestros socios estatales y federales por su colaboración por esta semana pasada y apoyo continuamos, y a todos los equipos sobre el terreno por su dedicación sin fin a esta misión. Gracias a todos, y oramos juntos.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I welcome Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz.
Thank you so much. Madam Mayor, I really want to continue to thank you and your entire team in Miami-Dade County, as well as Mayor Burke in Surfside, for really the remarkable job you're doing under the most excruciatingly difficult circumstances, the likes of which we have not seen really anywhere in America, certainly not in modern times. I had a chance to return to Washington for votes in Congress this week, and last night was able to lead a moment of silence in both memory and in prayer for the tragedy that has occurred with the collapse of the Champlain Towers South building here in Surfside. And I can tell you, we do moments of silence on the floor of the House of Representatives fairly often. This was an outpouring, and Congresswoman Salazar was mentioning it to me as well, the outpouring of love and prayer and hope from our colleagues all across the country was palpable. We had our entire Florida delegation stand together. We had members who were so silent you could hear a pin drop, and then for a number of minutes following the end of the moment of silence, just embracing one another. And that's what we need right now. And it's what was able to happen today with the visit of President Biden. President Biden is known for his empathy, and as the mayor mentioned, he had the chance to share his own horrendous experience with tragedy throughout much of his adult life. And so he immediately connected with the families that were there to listen to him and who needed to hear from the leader of our nation about the things that he was prepared to commit to, and where he linked arms with all of the elected officials that represent the community and said, "We will be with you every step of the way." That was such a critically important message. He's already mobilized FEMA. He committed today to cover 100% of the expenses for the reimbursements that will be necessary, given the deficits that many of our local governments that are going to be facing. That confidence, that safety net, was so critical. I, starting today, opened a mobile district office in the Family Assistance Center so that my district staff could be on the ground to help be responsive to my constituents, because as I did today and have since the tragedy began last Thursday, in talking with these families, we know that there is an immediate crisis where obviously the search and rescue continues, and making sure that this area is kept safe. But we know we are going to have a number of long-haul issues where families I talked with today said they're getting dinged by their mortgage companies already when they don't have a residence anymore, and they're being dinged to pay their mortgage. So we're going to go back and we're going to work on some legislation to try to make sure that we can give them some forgiveness, and make sure that people who have already been broken into pieces are not fully shattered in the rest of their lives too. That's going to be so incredibly important. Again, continuing to thread humanity throughout this entire response is so important, because so often we get buried in bureaucracy, and the president and all of the elected officials, the two mayors, myself, our two U.S. senators, the governor, we promised them that we would be with them all the way to the end. And having a chance to hear from President Biden and watching him sit knee to knee with so many of these families who are just heartsick, I saw really how it helped give them the kind of solace that they're going to need reinforced every day until we help them get through this. And really, we know that they'll never fully get through it, but we'll be there to hold them up, to lift them up for as long as they need us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Congresswoman. Division Director for Office of Emergency Management, Deputy Incident Commander Charles Sorel.
Good evening, everyone. The county's Office of Emergency Management is closely monitoring Tropical Storm Elsa as it enters the Caribbean Sea. There is a risk of heavy rainfall and strong winds from Elsa on Sunday night into Monday morning. Although the track and the intensity, there is still uncertainty. Contingency plans for this incident have been developed should this system become a threat to Miami-Dade County. While Miami-Dade County is not in immediate danger, all residents and businesses should check their disaster kits, review their hurricane plans, and remain alert to new information and instruction about the developing storm. Specifically, residents are urged to download the Ready MDC app to stay informed of all latest developments. Make sure your emergency equipment, such as hurricane shutters and battery-powered radios, are in good working order. Ensure that sufficient emergency supplies are on hand in each of the persons for at least 3 days. Obtain store materials necessary to secure your homes. Secure your construction debris so that they do not pose a threat to people and on your neighbors. Tree trimming should be taken to local trash recyclers. Find out if you live in an evacuation zone. Know your zone. Know your zone. If you would like more information on hurricane preparedness, visit miamidade.gov/hurricane. Also, I would like to provide a little information on the Family Assistance Center. The Family Assistance Center is open 7 days a week from 12 p.m. to 5 p.m. at the Seaview Hotel at 9909 Collins Avenue. We have 26 organizations there prepared to provide family services, social services, economic assistance, and a host of other services to our survivors and their family members and their neighbors. Today, we served 16 families. And as I mentioned, it is open 7 days a week. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you, sir. Miami-Dade Fire Rescue Director of Media and Public Relations, Erica Benitez, for Spanish.
Muy buenas noches. En este momento, la Oficina de Manejo de Emergencia del Condado está monitoreando de cerca la tormenta tropical Elsa, la cual ingresa al Mar Caribe y se dirige hacia el sur de la Florida. Existe el riesgo de fuertes lluvias y vientos fuertes de esta tormenta, pero no esperamos tener un impacto directo por ahora. Ahora se está desarrollando planes de contingencia para este incidente en caso de que el sistema se convierta en una amenaza para el condado de Miami-Dade. Si bien inmediatamente todos los residentes y negocios deben revisar sus planes de emergencia inmediatamente, tener listos sus equipos para desastres, revisar sus planes para huracanes y permanecer alerta en cuanto al desarrollo de esta información. Para alistarse deben descargar la aplicación Ready MDC o Ready MDC para mantenerse informado. Asegúrese de que tener su equipo de emergencia con contraventanas para huracanes y los radios que funcionen con baterías. Aseguren los escombros de jardín y la construcción y además tenga en cuenta todos estos documentos importantes que pueda necesitar. También tengo una información sobre el Centro de Asistencia Familiar que está operando de 12 de la tarde a 5 de la tarde los 7 días de la semana en el Seaview Hotel ubicado en el 9900 Collins Avenue. Contamos en este momento con 26 organizaciones que ayudan a las familias y brindan una variedad de servicios. Muchísimas gracias.
Thank you, Erica. Florida Division of Emergency Management Director Kevin Guthrie.
Good evening. I know it's already been said, but I will reiterate that earlier today we had a great meeting with President Joe Biden and provided a comprehensive update on our continued efforts here at Surfside. I'm happy to announce that today our federal partners at FEMA let us know that the division has received $20.5 million to support ongoing response efforts here at Surfside. Now that the president has included 100% for the first 30 days, we should receive an additional $4 to $5 million on that 20.5. This funding will cover costs associated with USAR teams and logistical resources. We're very appreciative of the ongoing support we received, and we will continue to work closely with our federal partners, our local partners, to ensure that all available resources are being utilized to respond to this event. I also received an update earlier today from our state meteorologist and National Hurricane Center Director, Ken Graham, regarding Tropical Storm Elsa. Tropical Storm Elsa remains about 600 miles east of the Lesser Antilles, moving west-northwest at 29 miles an hour. Maximum sustained winds are near 45 miles an hour, and a gradual strengthening remains possible. Elsa will move rapidly west-northwest through the Caribbean, but then will slow down and turn early next week near South Florida. There remains much uncertainty on the track and intensity for Elsa, but it is possible that there could be some rainfall, wind, and storm surge impacts to South Florida. I want to assure you the state will continue to support our local partners and the Surfside response. If I should have to leave, I will be leaving my Deputy Director for the Florida Division of Emergency Management, my Special Projects Director for the Florida Division of Emergency Management, and several others here on site to interface with Mayor Cava and federal partners. We have a co-response plan. I mentioned this 3 or 4 days ago. We are accustomed to running 3 or more disasters at the same time with our state emergency response team, and they stand ready to serve multiple disasters. Florida has some of the best emergency management professionals in the country. And when I say Florida, I mean not only the state of Florida, but our local county emergency managers. We are prepared to support any and all of them. The division state meteorologists are coordinated with the National Hurricane Center in tracking the progress of Tropical Storm Elsa to ensure that we can provide the best information to those responding on site. With the uncertainty of the track, we are encouraging Floridians to stock their disaster supply kits with at least 7 days of supplies and begin developing their individual disaster plans. As Tropical Storm Elsa will impact most likely somewhere on the west coast between South Florida, Naples, all the way up to and including the Big Bend area, I would ask all Floridians along that coast to please listen to your local emergency management official on any evacuation orders. Again, as Charles has stood up here and saying, know your zone. We also have a slogan, know your home. So please know your zone and know your home. For instance, if you live in manufactured housing, mobile homes, please heed the warnings to evacuate. I asked Ken Graham if there was anything that he wanted me to mention while we have an international audience. And he wanted me to mention that he would like for all of those countries in the Caribbean to please listen and stay tuned to what is going on, and also for them to prepare a plan and be ready for what's to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. Surfside Mayor Charles Burke.
Good evening. I'm going to touch on a couple subjects tonight. The first one is the logistical nightmare that we had today with President Biden traffic-wise. That went off without a glitch because of the direction of Director Freddie Ramirez and his team. It was smooth. There was no great impacts to Surfside, and everything went fantastic. And that's on top of managing the catastrophe that we're currently undergoing. Thank you, Director. This morning, when I visit the site, as I usually do, I was, as you probably know, pretty surprised to see that there was absolutely nobody there. I soon found out that there were issues. We're going to discuss those issues later on, as Mayor Cava said, but I do want to thank Mayor Cava sincerely for working as hard as she did to restart the effort, because, you know, minutes and hours matter and lives are at stake, and, you know, her efforts are not only appreciated by me, the residents of Surfside, but the families who are suffering unimaginable distress, knowing that the minutes and the hours were ticking by. But the good news is I was back over there probably at 5 o'clock, and I observed almost full strength to what I'm normally accustomed to seeing over there. There was a lot of activity, a lot of energy, and I think that all of our rescue workers were very excited to get back on that debris pile. Next, I was fortunate to be invited to visit with the president today. We had 3 different sessions. The first session was a small group of elected officials, which included our senators, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, Mayor Cava, and others. And we told the president about what we were doing here, what the challenges we were facing. And I've got to tell you, the president was all ears. He was very engaged. He was very concerned about whether or not we were getting what we needed. And he further pledged to basically, in so many words, give us whatever we needed. So that was reassuring. But the best part of that meeting was the moment where I shared with him the story of the 12-year-old girl who was praying next to the pile about her missing father, and her desire to meet with him and talk with him. When I passed him the picture of the 12-year-old girl, he immediately said, "Bring her to me." I arranged for her to be brought. The president embraced her, gave her words of comfort, and was grandfatherly and wonderful to her, and it actually made her day. So that sort of tied up the whole story in a nice bow. I was very happy to hear that. The president also greeted the first responders, gave them words of encouragement and thanks, and most importantly, he was with the families and literally went around to every single table of every family that was in the room and spoke to each and every one of them. So for that, Mr. President, thank you for doing your job. Thank you for serving your citizens. Thank you for serving Dade County, Surfside, in the state of Florida. You've done what you promised to do, and we all thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Miami-Dade Fire Rescue Chief Alan Kaminski.
Good evening. A short-term re-engagement plan was created, vetted, and approved by the FEMA Incident Support Team and the MDFR Incident Management Team. Search and Rescue Branch Directors and MDFR Incident Management Team Ops Chiefs, in coordination with the Structural Specialists, created a Search and Rescue Operations Re-Engagement Plan. All task force leaders and division group supervisors and heavy equipment operators were briefed on the plan, and operations resumed at 4:45. The operations have resumed with safety mitigation measures in place to maintain the safety and accountability of all personnel. At this time, rescue squads will be working in 3 of the 9 grids: B3, D2, and G3. Additional engagement in other grids will be reassessed in future operational periods.
Thank you, Chief. And Miami-Dade Fire Rescue Director of Media and Public Relations, Erica Benitez, for Spanish.
En este momento se creó un plan de reinserción a corto plazo, el cual fue examinado y aprobado por los líderes del Comando de Incidentes del Departamento de Bomberos, en coordinación con especialistas estructurales, los cuales crearon este plan. Todos los supervisores de los grupos de tarea y de las divisiones y los operadores de equipos pesados estaban informados sobre el plan y comenzaron otra vez sus operaciones a eso de las 4:45 de esta tarde. En este momento los rescatistas se encuentran trabajando en 3 de las 9 cuadrantes. La participación adicional de estas cuadrículas se reevaluará en futuros periodos de operación. Gracias.
Thank you, Erica. And for our Creole translator, Leonel Larabor.
Bonsoir tout le monde. Dans la conférence pour la presse matin, nous avons signalé déjà que le travail a été campé sur ce site-là à cause de l'intégrité bâtiment qui était là. Mais à 4h45 dans l'après-midi, il a commencé encore avec le travail pour recherche pour trouver le corps que vous êtes capable de trouver. En raison de questions building là qui était et qui était représenté un problème. Il y a un ingénieur qui a travaillé sur place pour assurer que l'intégrité a fait, pour faire l'étude qui est nécessaire, de sorte que l'équipe qui a travaillé là sentit en sécurité. Maintenant, pour le moment, ça n'a pas gagné l'autre quantité de morts que nous sommes capables de signaler, c'est même quantité hier là. 12 morts et 17 là-dedans qui ont identifié et qui ont signalé famille de présence comme monde qui mourit. Nous avons signalé que nous avons surveillé l'évolution Elsa qui a privé sur nous et pendant la période ça a nous demandé tout le monde pour continuer à prendre précaution pour faire tout ça que nous connaissons et une bagage que nous sommes capables de faire c'est télécharger l'application mobile Ready MDC et qui a nous information qui est nécessaire. Nous sommes capables d'aller sur le site internet pour nous chercher information tout sur miamidade.gov/hurricane. Je dis à nous apprécié la présence du président Biden qui était là pour encourager les gens qui sont là et ensuite consoler les gens qui méritaient consoler. Et il y a une chose que je dit pendant la présence avec les gens, c'était un bagage qui était marqué moment ça. Pour te dire que dimension épreuve ça, dimension ça que nous vivons kounya, montrer à quel point que nous sommes une nation qui est unie. Merci en pile.
Thank you, Mr. Larabor. We're going to open it up for questions and answers for those that have been here, haven't been here. This is the first time. Please raise your hand, wait until you're called upon, and identify who your question is directed to. We'll start off with the Miami Herald.
So we do have with us the one of the chief engineers for any technical questions. If he could come forward, and he'll explain the timeline a bit. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good evening. My name is Scott Nackman. I am a structure specialist with FEMA's Urban Search and Rescue Incident Support Team. We're here supporting the local assets in their ongoing urban search and rescue efforts. Part of what we've done over the last 24 hours is evaluate contingency plans for demolition of the structure. We're currently looking at several different methodologies, and as we get technical data, as we get stakeholder information, those decisions will be made, information will be transferred onto Incident Command and the Mayor's office, and at which point the determination can be made with regard to how we want to proceed to safely make the site operational for ongoing rescue operations. Sure, it's N like November, A, C-H-E, M like Mary, A, N like November. So any demolition process takes time to evaluate the current conditions, the planning for the demolition scheme, and then the actual on-site preparations for the demo. So best case scenario, we're looking at weeks before we can determine exactly what that definitive timeline is going to be. So we paused operations last night due to detection by our monitoring systems of movement. What was determined that the building itself had not moved. However, debris in the pile below the building, as well as debris on the building of significant size, had displaced. And for the safety of the rescuers and the integrity of the operation, we determined it was best to pause the operations, reevaluate our plan, and then remobilize today, as was expressed by the chief.
Are you guys analyzing the pile as well? Is that something you're looking at?
That's correct. We're analyzing the building, the debris, and the pile. All that has to be constantly analyzed so that we can proceed with rescue operations on the scene.
What's the latest status on the pile? What is that like for right now?
We're monitoring that. We have instruments at the perimeter. We're enhancing the instrumentation, both in terms of quantity and locations. And right now we're in a position where we feel it is safe to continue the operations as we've done so, and that monitoring will continue indefinitely until the operations are complete.
CNN.
Hey, Matt Stucker with CNN. Will pulling the rest of that building hurt or help the hope of finding anyone still alive?
So if the building comes down, there are a number of different manners in which we can try to direct where it would go and the manner in which it's performed. There initially will be a slowdown in the operation of rescue and recovery because of that debris, but we're creating a safer working environment, at which point we can then increase the rate at which we're operating, as well as the number of personnel that are operating on scene at any concurrent time.
Francisco Villalobos from Televisa Network, Teams Kaminski. Like I always ask you, how's your man? How this suspension of operation affected the rescue operations? And secondly, and very importantly, we're receiving literally hundreds of thousands of calls of our viewers throughout the continent, television watch throughout the continent, and they haven't seen their Mexican topos in action. If you guys are not going to use them, should they go home? Should they stay? Are you ever going to use them?
Well, first question, in regards to spirits, definitely positive that we got to get back to work today. Again, everyone's committed 100% to this search and rescue effort. So even though it's a lot of hard work and effort that we've been putting in, it's just as difficult sitting around. Everyone wants to be on that mountain, or that debris, I should say, I'm sorry. So it's difficult, but very proud that we got back to work today, and it's going to be a process, like I've been saying all along. So it's a process with our search and rescue effort, but I'm glad that we're implementing underway again. In regards to any international teams, Los Tobos, we're not going to allow anyone at this time, due to the circumstances where we're at, due to the recent changes, it just wouldn't be safe. So, and the responsibility of where we're at, and it's not safe at all, is how I should say it. But it's our responsibility here for our brave men and women, all our state assets, as well as our federal assets that are here as well. And that's got to be our primary responsibility.
So they should go back.
We're gonna go with you here and followed over here in the last two questions, ma'am.
I'm not too familiar with the drone process. We definitely searched the building. So we did a primary and secondary search of the building, as well as a tertiary search. So we went through that building 3 times, which is remarkable that we did that. None of the times did we find any pets or anything going through. So the drone concept we'll evaluate. Depending, we have more monitors now, more engineers looking at the structure. So depending if they feel safe and it's a possibility, it might be something to explore. But again, I want to reiterate, we didn't come across any pets in any of our searches. Yes, we've made contact with several individuals advising where they were. But remember, with the debris, the structure integrity, how things has changed, it's unknown where their pets would have been. However, when we did our searches, we did not come across it.
Last question over here, ma'am, before.
I have 2 questions for the chief. One, do you have any concerns about evacuating the buildings, especially if there's going to be a demolition? And secondly, we've heard that there's a possible outbreak of COVID among rescue workers. Can you speak to that? Is there an outbreak of cases?
In regards to COVID, we've had a few cases. So we're monitoring. We have our medical plan in place. This is something that we've been dealing with for the past year. So now, unfortunately, it's transitioned, within our work environment here. So it's something that we constantly will monitor and aggressively keep our eye on.
Thank you. Appreciate it.